So I'll take you through one of the product lines that ShopLogics provides, which is the analytics and the core analytics. Take you through some introduction of it, what it is, what it's designed to do, the features and the benefits, and then some kind of practical use of it and how some use cases can add value to organizations, and maybe you can take some of this away and understand what you can do within your own business. ShopLogics in general is a production monitoring and visualization solution. So its core essence is to digitize the manufacturing operations within the production environment. So automatically collect the information from production equipment and deliver it to the right people at the right time, deliver it through visualization on the shop floor, and really drive the operational excellence and continuous improvement journey within manufacturing today. Kind of, I suppose, is comprised within the facet of smart factory or IoT or Industry 4.0, depending on what your organization calls it today. But with that collection of data and the visualization on the shop floor, we then have the whole database structure that's built to collate all that information and really drive value from an analytical perspective. And that's where the core analytics comes into it. What we're going to go through today is just a brief introduction to what the analytics is itself, the features that it provides, some of the benefits and how it works. Two of them will be comprised together in terms of getting the benefits from real use of the system, going through some sample dashboards that can be created and then delivered to the organization on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, depending on what type of reporting capabilities you're looking to achieve. A brief summary as to kind of what we went through, and then I'll leave it open for some questions and answers at the end. Yeah, if there's any questions as we go through, as I say, just type it in the chat and we will get to them as I can through it, or we'll wait until the end and then go through them then. Thank you. So an introduction, the core analytics solution is part of what ShopLogics comprises as the smart factory solution. ShopLogics includes at its core the digital whiteboard, but the core analytics is what's built from the database structure and the data model that ShopLogics comprises from the manufacturing reality and what happens on the operations of the shop floor. It standardizes metrics across the shop floor. It delivers the same information to everybody within the organization through the accuracy in the collection of data. So it removes the need and the requirement for manually collected data and manually driven reports, the collation of all that data into one central repository and then trying to share it across the whole organization. So it reduces all of that time, automates the reporting capabilities, and delivers the accurate and the right information to everybody at the right time. It does comprise of a lot of pre-built dashboards. I won't go through them today. I'll go through some very specific ones for use cases. But within the core analytics, there are some pre-built dashboards that are easily customizable. And the solution belongs to the full smart factory suite that ShopLogics provides. What are its features from a high level perspective? We will go through some more in-depth features as I get into the system itself. But it lets manufacturing departments, manufacturing heads, manufacturing leaders, and the management within the teams standardize the metrics while also being able to leverage custom functionalities within the core analytics. Its key capabilities include the analyzing of production metrics and standardizing them across multiple areas, multiple departments, multiple plants, multiple divisions, depending on how your organization is set up. And there's a simple drag and drop feature within the analytics, which I'll go through as well. The benefits at a high level, it enables departments to create very specific and custom dashboards. It also allows you to leverage the standard dashboards that ShopLogics can create, some of the default dashboards, to provide more full and rounded insights into what it is that matters to you within your manufacturing operations. It helps you to really drive data-driven decisions and to accelerate the operational excellence journey that all manufacturers achieve to be on. It analyzes the production metrics to identify areas for improvement, and also to identify areas where you're doing really well, so that you can understand, why are we doing well there? How are we doing well there? And how can we best practice share within the organization, cross-departmentally and cross-functionally? It also enhances the collaboration among all the users within the organization to increase the efficiencies across your plant, across your organization, across your departments, and increases that cross-departmental functionalities, and really comprises of developing a full culture of everybody being able to utilize the same tool with the same data to make decisions on reliable information and make sure that everybody's on the same page. And really is the essence of driving cultural change and change management along the operational excellence and continuous improvement journey. So how does it work itself? In essence, it is a solution that enables manufacturing departments to create dashboards, standardized dashboards, and also have certain key users within an organization to be able to customize those dashboards and share them among the full management team, the production teams, the operations teams, the engineering teams, the maintenance teams, and really bring everybody together. It helps analyze your production metrics, your KPIs, your OEE, your availability, your performance, your quality, or whatever KPIs it is that's important to you as a business. And that's where that customization comes into it, to allow you to really focus on what matters to you as a business, or what matters to you as a department, or what matters to you as an individual. It helps in identifying improvement areas, leading to refined efficiencies, and as I said, better collaboration and data-driven decisions. So allowing you to make better decisions to improve the overall performance of the organization. And not even just within the kind of the production efficiency or the equipment efficiency, but just in general, the overall performance and efficiency of the organization as it pertains to the manufacturing operations and the resources that are involved within that. Features dashboards that can be used to support data-driven decisions. Again, just to kind of summarize that a little bit, increases efficiency across the plant by identifying improvement opportunities, and drives better decision making while improving overall performance. So I'll jump right into the actual software itself now to give you an idea of what it looks like. Okay. So when you log into the system itself, it'll be at portal.shoplogix.com. You will be a registered user, and we have users which are either viewers or designers. Designers have the capability to create dashboards, create reports, and viewers are then the individuals with the capability to only view what has been created. So I'll go through that a little bit as well. But once you log in, you'll get your home screen, which is the landing page. You have the ability to create dashboards, and you have the ability to create folders. The folder structure on the left-hand side here allows you to better manage the structure of the core analytics, so that you can navigate it in a more efficient and easy manner. You can create folders depending on how your organization is laid out, depending on how you as a user or you as a designer fit within the organization, within the plant, within the business, to better define either from a very, very high level, do we want to have divisional folders, then into divisions we have plants, into plants we have departments, into departments we have individual lines or individual machines. If you're a plant user, you will then maybe not go to the division level and you'll just have it, but depending on who you are within the organization, you will have the ability to create your folder structure to better suit your needs, okay? So to add a folder or a dashboard, you click the plus icon. It gives you the capability to add new dashboards, new folders, and then also there's a functionality to import dashboards. So I'll just touch on that very quickly. That is, if you have people within your organization who are also designers, or people within ShopLogix that you may work with that have the ability to create some custom dashboards for you, they can create them and then send them to you as a file. You then have the ability to import those dashboards directly to your user account, okay? So if I click on a folder that I've already created, I just created for this, which is ShopLogix webinar. And then if I have a dashboard, so I have here the ability to create a new dashboard. Once you go into creating a new dashboard, you pick your data source. So depending on your user access and your user rights, you will have different data sources to choose from. Okay, it will contain the data that has been collected for your manufacturing plant from a ShopLogix perspective, and collate that over the full length of time and the full breadth of time that we have been connected to your equipment. You then have the ability to give your dashboard a name. So you give it a title and then you hit create. I created one earlier. It was called webinar. So if I click on that, I then have the ability to come in here and create a dashboard. Once you're creating a dashboard, there are a few best practices that I like to deploy in order to optimize the utilization of the core analytics. The first one would be to filter your dashboard. So filtering your dashboard gives you the capability to say, okay, of all the data that ShopLogix has, I want to be able to look at it based on these specific criteria. So the main filters that I would initially start with and initially recommend to start with would be the different divisions within your organization, or the different plants within your organization, or the different departments within your plant, depending on your user access and your role within the business. The second level of filtering I would have would be time-based. So there are a few different time-based filters that ShopLogix provides to add value. One of them is just very simple to calendar date time. Another one that maybe 90% of organizations would prefer to utilize is your 24-hour production schedule. So do I go 8 a.m. to 8 a.m., 6 a.m. to 6 a.m., rather than doing it on a very specific date-based timing? So if I go into shift start date time, this is where ShopLogix collates that information to allow you to look at your information based on your 24-hour shift schedule. So 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. And depending on what time frame you look at, it will always pull in the shifts that started within that period of time. So if I wanted to just go from a time frame perspective, this is where you have the different options within the calendar functionality to basically dissect your information or create that time frame that you want to look at. Do you want to look at a very specific time range, or do you want to look at a continuously changing time range based on the last 24 hours or the last week? So here I'll change this from years to days, and I'll look at yesterday. The reason I'm doing this is people typically want to look at information on a previous 24-hour perspective or on a previous week perspective. So if I just do that, that will then create the first filter, which is saying, okay, the first limitation I want to put into this dashboard is I want to look at all the information based on the nearest complete 24 hours of my shift schedule. Then the second one I want to put in is maybe my plant names. So I can come in here and I can filter it. And then this is the list of all the plants that I have access to as a user to allow me to, again, limit the data that I'm looking at or dissect the information based on how I want to see what it is that I'm trying to obtain or what I'm trying to get from ShopLogix. And then if I want to select within a filter, I can select multiple machines or plants like this. Within the filters, you can have individual filters, but you can then create dependent filters. And what this does, this also allows for increased efficiency in the utilization of the dashboards. So if I hover over a filter, it has a little plus icon here, which allows me to add a dependent filter. What that will do then is any filter that I choose within the available fields will automatically be limited to that parent plant. So those 4 plants that I have already limited within that filter, anything now within the next filter or the dependent filter that I choose will automatically only contain members within those plants. So if I go for machine name, this will then highlight all the machines that are only available within these plants. Okay, so that's what a dependent filter can do. Then if I go into select data, this here allows me to select what information I want to use or what information I want to now actually look at within the ShopLogix data set. So if I go to machine name, this will now highlight all of the machine names that are available within this. When I'm going to create a widget, my recommendation is always to go to advanced configuration because it gives you a little bit more capabilities in the widget to create what it is that you're looking to achieve. Okay, so the available widget types within ShopLogics. So just to maybe peel it back a second, every individual dashboard you create can have multiple widgets. So that's what I refer to when I'm talking about a widget. Each individual report within a full dashboard is called a widget. So these widgets can have indicators. They can be pie charts, column charts, bar charts. I'll go through some of these with the sample dashboards that I have to share. But by default, it will typically create the widget based on the data set that you select, or the number of pieces of data that you select, because it'll try to use some level of intelligence to understand what way you're trying to perceive the data or what way you're trying to look at the data. So you have a number of available options here. So I'll leave it on the pivot table. And here then we have our rows and we have our values. So within this, I can add another row, which could be, let's go with shift start date time, because I now want to look at it based on different sectors of time within the time frame I've selected on the dashboard. So if I go to shift start date time and I change that to days, that will then show me the days that I'm looking at. And because I've already limited this dashboard to yesterday, it will automatically only show me yesterday's information within the widget of the dashboard. And then if I just go simply to add values, you have then all the different values available, where you have a search icon to allow you to more efficiently find what data point it is that you're trying to get to. So if I want to add the OEE, by default, this is a numerical value. And then within each value, you have different options. One of them is the number and the number format. So by default, it's a number, but from an OEE perspective, we typically look at it in percentages. So I would change that to percent and click OK. And that will then create the OEE for every machine name, which is the first row, based on the date, which is the second row. And I can continue to add values here. And if I just scroll through this very briefly, just to give you an idea of the number of data points that are available. Many of you may be aware of this, but just in case there's some people who haven't had the experience of utilizing the analytics, I just want to run through it very quickly. There's lots of pieces of information here for you to go to, but if you know what you're looking for example, I'm looking to get the good production, you can simply select it by just a quick search field. I want to look at my scheduled hours. I'm going through this quite quickly just to give a flavor for it, but it allows you to very quickly grab the data points that matter to you or matter to whomever it is that you're creating this dashboard for. Okay, so once I create this, I'm now happy. I can then apply this widget, and that will then create this widget on this dashboard. Okay, if I then want to add a new widget, I click widget, it opens up this pop-up window. And as I said, my recommendation is always to go to advanced configuration. And that will automatically take me to this advanced configuration. What I also have the ability to do within a widget, which adds significant value, is to create specific filters within a widget that do not necessarily adhere to the dashboard filters. So if I was to create a column chart, I wanted to look at maybe how I'm trending over time. And I want to look at it based on a divisional basis, and maybe a plant basis. And I want to look at my good production. This will then give me my good production, and we have one plant that's very much superseding the rest. So if I want to remove an anomaly or a piece of data that doesn't necessarily make sense or is skewing the information, I can go into that category, and these are all the selected fields. I can then deselect, and it would then remove it from the data set. And you can see then what that has done is that has created an individual filter within this specific widget. So here, I now have the ability to create very specific widgets that don't adhere to the overall dashboard filters. So that, for example, I want to look at my last 24 hours from a daily management system perspective or a morning meeting perspective. Typically, we look at the last 24 hours. But I also want to see how I'm trending over the last week. So I can have one widget in my dashboard that looks at the last week's performance and how I'm trending day on day over the last week, while also looking at more detail in the last 24 hours. One of the dashboards that I'll go through has that little bit more detail. You could also look at year to date, quarter to date, depending on how it is you want to look at the data. So within this widget, I could continue to add widget filters, which would again be very specific to this widget only within the whole spectrum of the dashboard. We also have the ability here are the dashboard filters. So we have the ability to turn off these filters for that individual widget if I also want to create some custom filtering on top of the individual widget filter to not adhere to the dashboard filters. So it's very, very customizable depending on how you want to look at your data and how you want to represent your data. Typically, what I recommend to some organizations from this kind of customization of the widget filter perspective is to always show your best day in one widget on your DMS dashboard or your 24-hour dashboard or your weekly dashboard or your monthly dashboard, depending on what KPIs or what reporting mechanism you're utilizing. But it always then shows you what was my best and how am I comparing to that on the time period that I'm looking at. So if I apply that, that then creates this dashboard. So I then have another widget within my dashboard. And I can continue to add filters to this. I can continue to manipulate the filters here to change how the data looks. So these are the 4 selected plants. If I said that I didn't want to look at the food and beverage plant, if I deselect it, that then removes that from the data set within this dashboard. Okay, so we can reselect it and it will then add that data set back in. And we can see that that has now added some additional rows and an additional column into the column chart. From a sharing perspective, we have the ability here through some of these icons to share this dashboard to multiple people within your organization. So anybody that is a registered ShopLogics user will appear here so that you can share with them. So I can then scroll through this. These are all the people within ShopLogics that I have access to share the dashboard with. So if I click on a colleague, I can then make him a viewer, a designer, or an owner of this individual dashboard. So if I save that, it will then send an email to that user to say this dashboard has been shared with you. And what I also have the ability to do in here is to create this dashboard as an email favorite. So we can embed it in an email or we can create it as a PDF attachment. And what that does then is on a given frequency, so every day at, let's say if we're doing it for a morning meeting, we want it to go out at 7 a.m. starting tomorrow, save, and I want it to go to this individual and I want it to go to myself, and I can continue to add users to this so that every morning, and this is all about getting the right data to the right people at the right time, but I'm based on accurate information because we're connected to the equipment on the shop floor, so we know what's truly going on. This then gets shared out to all of the people who are going to be important to the manufacturing operations, the people who are going to attend your morning meetings and the people who need to know this information. So every morning at 7 o'clock, everybody gets this dashboard that has been created custom to your organization based on your KPIs and what it is that you require to understand as a business. So we all have the same information at the same time. We then give them 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, depending on how you want to operate the business, to consume this information and understand what's happened over the previous 24 hours. Then when we go to our morning meeting, we all have the same information. We know what's happened. So ideally, we're coming with solutions versus only going to find out what the problems were when we get to the meeting. Typically, that's what I find when I initially go into a manufacturing environment from a daily management perspective and a production meeting perspective, is they start to talk about the problems in a morning meeting versus talking about solutions because everybody knows what the problems were or what their biggest issues were or what their biggest concerns were. So that's a significant added benefit and a way to, as I say, not only increase the operations through the utilization of ShopLogics of the manufacturing equipment, but also of the resources within your production facility and your production facilities. So if I save that, then that will generate that email every morning at 7 a.m. to these people so that they get the same information at the same time and they can go and add value to the business. What I'll do now is I'll just go through some dashboards that I've created that I've worked with some organizations to deliver value to their business, to help them understand how they can better utilize ShopLogics and the analytics platform in order to drive value and understand how they can make positive changes to the business. So if we have a large organization with multiple machines and plants connected to ShopLogics, we can look at it from a very high level perspective. Okay, so we have all our filters on the right hand side here, and I can hide them just to get more land space for the actual dashboard itself. But this is one that would be sent out potentially on a monthly basis, right? So this allows top management to understand how the business is performing on a month-to-month basis and where the biggest focus for improvement opportunity can be. So we have our core OE components, which is your availability, your performance, your quality, your OE, and then your capacity. So how much of my time has been scheduled and how much has been unscheduled over the course of the period of time that I've created for this dashboard. Okay. We also have some color coding in here. So I'll just show you what that is very quickly. We have conditional coloring, which if I have a value metric and I want to say, I want to change the color of this value based on how it falls within my expectation as a business. Okay. So this one here is the availability. So if my availability is below 85%, I want this number to appear as red straight away, signifying that we need action. Okay. If it's between 85 and 88%, I want it to be amber. If it's between 88 and 100, I want it to be green. And if it's above 100, I want it to be a very specific color because that should not happen. Therefore, there's something that needs to be investigated. So again, we're utilizing the ShopLogics solution to better understand the business and make data-driven decisions and to really have everybody get the right information. Okay. So if I continue on through this dashboard, just to go through the use case. So here we're looking at a trend. So this is a column chart with a trend line in here to understand what the change is over time. And I'm looking at this on a month-by-month basis. So I'm looking at my OEE across my organization, which is multi-plants, over the last 6 months. So am I trending in the right direction or not? And then we're also looking at it on a quarter-by-quarter basis over the last year. So Q3, 4, Q1, and then up to this point at Q2. We then have our OE and our capacity performance by area. We have it broken down by shift. So as I said, there's many data points within ShopLogics. Okay, I don't have the time to go through every one of them, but I will share some information with you which allows you to understand all the different data points that can be attributed to your data set within ShopLogics to better understand how can I dissect the information and understand it in the way that matters to me, and understand it in ways that we can really focus on the areas and the opportunities for improvement. So this one here is showing my OE by shift. Okay, so do I have specific shifts that are performing much better than others over long periods of time? Okay, maybe the resources within that shift know something and have a skill set that we can share among the other shifts, or maybe there's an individual or individuals within a certain shift that could do with some additional training. But it's about highlighting and focusing. And again, we have this color coded to very quickly identify which shifts are doing well and which shifts could do with a bit of assistance from the management team, from the supervisors and the shift leads. Then we have it by technology. So within ShopLogics, you have the ability to categorize your equipment by the type of technology it is. So depending on the industry or the market that you play in, you may have bagging lines, you may have filling lines, you may have injection mold machines, you may have stamping presses, you may have vacuum forming, you may have any type of technology that works or produces within the manufacturing environment. This here is allowing me to understand, again, based on all of these available types of dashboards and widgets, I have the ability to look at it based on this specific piece of information. So how are my specific technologies performing? And then it allows me to compare those technologies across plants or across departments. So if I have like technologies in Europe and North America and South America, Are some of them performing better than others? And again, okay, let's understand what these guys are doing really well that we can share to the other plants, to the other departments within the organization. Again, it's all about highlighting the opportunities for improvement and really being able to easily identify them and focus your efforts and resources to something that can make a difference, okay, to the bottom line and to your role within the organization. Then in this here, we can have our top 10 focus. We can, if I go into this widget here, just to kind of go as quickly through some of the benefits as possible, because I'm quickly running out of time. So within any metric that we have the ability to report on, you have, as I said, you can change the number format, but you also then have the ability to ascend or descend. This one here is descending based on OE. So I'm looking at my best performer down to my worst. I could also look at my worst to my best. So it allows me to very quickly highlight what it is that I need to focus on and who's doing well and who could do with some assistance. So if I just get out of that, I'll go through this because I want to show some of the dashboards that I've created for you guys just to see, show you some of the value that it can add. And I'll just kind of highlight this here as you can have your pie chart. So this is my top scrap reasons. So you can have a very specific waste or scrap dashboard, which is for the quality department. So they can very quickly identify, okay, which shifts, which machines, which production lines, which departments, which plants, what are the top scrap reasons? I can now much better understand what's going on in real time, ongoing, and trend that over whatever period of time I want to look at in whatever intervals of time I require, or based on whatever dimension I have available within ShopLogics. As I said, you can look at it based on technology type, you can look at it based on machine name, you can look at it based on calendar date time, shift date time. So which shifts are the best performers from a scrap perspective? Okay, what did these guys do really well that we can share among the rest of the organization? I'll just move to another dashboard very quickly. This is a sample dashboard that would highlight the data set for the previous 24 hours. So as I said, we have the ability to look at it based on shift start date time, which shows you any shift that began yesterday. Okay, so this is my 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. Here we're looking at our OEE. Again, conditional coloring based on if I'm below a certain threshold or above. So red means that it's a focus area. Amber means that, okay, it's not the worst, but we still need to focus and understand what's going on. And green, then obviously we can move on to the next one. We're now here comparing our total good production against our expected. We're breaking down our production by shift here. We're looking at our OEE by shift as well. And then we've got our machine status breakdown. So how long are we running for? What would our top breakdown? This then is a downtime Pareto. We have the ability to look at our average speed per hour over that full period of time, and then also break it down by shift. So for the full period of time is 3.58. The reason that we took that up was because shift C performed better than the other two shifts. Okay, what did these guys do that we can understand to drive performance across the other shifts? So very quick ways to identify where we're doing well and where we could do with more assistance, and to share best practices and understand maybe where additional training can be provided. We also have the ability within the analytics platform to connect to other features within ShopLogics. So if I change this very quickly to a viewer mode, okay, so as a designer, you also have the ability to kind of take a step back and look at it as a viewer mode. So I'll just go back and show you what that is there. So up on these icons here, I have a little view mode icon. If I select that, this now shows me as the designer, when I share this with a viewer, the experience that they have. So I've created this here, which is, this is my daily management system. So my 24 hours, this is what's happened on this, in this department or on this production line or on this machine over those 24 hours. Okay, I want to create an action. I can then create a hyperlink to an additional feature within ShopLogics. This is based off of the whiteboard, which then allows me to directly go into the action plan that ShopLogics provides to create actions based on what we've just spoken about over this 5-minute period production meeting, which sometimes can take up to 20 minutes. As I said, everybody has already got this report into their inbox. They already know all of this information. So they're coming with solutions. So we're immediately ready to create actions. So I click create an action through this hyperlink here, which is automatically within the dashboard. And then we have the ability here to start to create actions based on the ShopLogics data. Also, if I want to go into a little bit more detail within this, we have our 24-hour view within ShopLogics. This webinar is for the core analytics, so I won't go into too much detail here. But again, just having the ability to automatically tailor the system to get you to where you need to go, to do what you need to do, to understand what you need to understand, when you need to understand it. It's very dynamic, it's very customizable, and it adds a lot of value. So from an email best practice perspective, I just want to show this very quickly. So as I said, all of these dashboards can be emailed out and shared very quickly. So all of these color codings that you see, that's that conditional coloring. So one big thing that I push for when it comes to the core analytics is ensuring trust in the data. So I just put a sample here of color coding anything that is showing a value that I wouldn't expect it to show. So if we have an OE over 100%, that's not something I would expect or should occur. So I want to identify that so that when we get this dashboard sent to us, we can then ask the question, okay, what's going on here? Do we need to refine our targets? Is there something within ShopLogics that we need to adjust? Is there something that the operator needs to be trained on in order to have better data and more accurate data? So very quick things to ensure that when we're making these data-driven decisions, we're confident in the data and we trust in the data. Okay, very important from my perspective. So here again, as I say, you can open and close these to get more land space on the screen, depending on the size of the screen you have. But this is just a sample email best practice where we have a very specific set of widgets. We're looking at the last 24 hours. So again, if I just show you this here, we're looking at the last 24 hours for all divisions, all plants, and all plant areas. If I go into PDF, this will then show me the PDF that will be generated as part of the email that's received. Okay, so as I said, if we go in here, these are the people that it's shared with. If I added more users here, they would be getting this email dashboard. If I go to PDF, this will then show me the PDF that is going to be generated to all of the users. Okay, so I have this here. So it's a one-page PDF. I have the ability to manipulate this here. What page size do I want? Do I want a portrait, landscape? Do I want some of the data to show or not? So very, very customizable based on how you want people to receive the information so that they see what they need to see when they need to see it, and removing noise and creating action. Okay, so in here I can change how this looks as a designer to manipulate this to say I want more space for this or I want less space for this. So very customizable. This then generates the PDF. I then save it. This is now the PDF that's generated as part of the email. So if I just go very quickly to the next dashboard. So we have the energy dashboard. So if we have our energy data connected to ShopLogics, it shows us again very quickly how we can get whatever data set is within ShopLogics to provide us significant value through the core analytics. So here I'm looking at a very specific machine and I'm looking at, okay, how am I consuming energy while producing? Or how am I consuming energy while not producing, which is a bigger opportunity to be able to understand. So here we're looking at so all of this data is already automatically captured within ShopLogics. We're just representing it here now within the analytics portal. So here I'm looking at my production hour by hour, and I'm also looking at my water consumption. So based on whatever electricity consumption, gas consumption, water consumption, whatever is important to you as a business and you have connected to ShopLogics, this allows you then to correlate that information against what's happening on the machine. And you can then generate this, as I say, on a 24-hour period, on a weekly period, to really understand not only your production metrics and your OE metrics, but all of the supporting functionalities within the production environment that allows you to be more profitable as a business and to get more added value from the systems that you have in place, both software and hardware. hardware in the manufacturing operation, software from the ShopLogic's perspective. So it's a very significant added value in the amount of data that you can have contained within ShopLogic's, which drives this core analytics to really give you significant value as a business to understand your manufacturing operations, as I say, not only from a production perspective, but also from a supporting perspective as well. Okay, so again, all of the different types of widgets that are available, but it really allows you to refine the information and refine the data in a manner that allows you to understand your operations in the way that you want to and in the way that you need to. And it also standardizes this data across the business. So every individual that's looking at this dashboard, that's looking at this widget, that's receiving this email, is receiving the same information and has the ability to share knowledge, share best practices based on like information and not what they perceive to be the case, versus ShopLogic's connected to your equipment, giving you true accurate information and the exact same information to all the individuals within the organization. Go to another dashboard. So we have the paging. So within ShopLogic's, there's a digital add-on function, paging action capability. So this here then, again, within the database, collates, captures, and stores all that information. And it allows you then, again, to dissect the information based on all of the data points and components we have available within ShopLogic's. So again, I can look at this over whatever period of time I want. At the moment, I'm looking at last week, and I'm including all machines. Here, I created this prior to the webinar, just so that I could share it with you guys. But here I'm looking at the pages by department. So we have pages for our quality team, our maintenance team, AV, and we have others. Okay, so there's two within others, which is tool maintenance and safety. So here you can see if we have a very subset of data points, which are smaller than everything else, it will summarize it into others, but then gives me the ability to go into that in more detail. And then I can go back, and now I can look at the summarized view where I'm looking at everything. Here I have the pages by machine. So I'm looking at, okay, which machines are creating the most pages? Okay, are the pages being created for very specific reasons? Are they going to very specific people? So these are now the pages by operator. And I can see the length of time in minutes that these pages have been open. Okay, so I'm looking at a much longer period of time here. So there's a high number of minutes. I wouldn't say they're inefficient, but you could then have the math done within this widget to say, okay, what is the average page duration? Because we know the total minutes and we know the number of pages that this individual has had to answer to. Okay, their average page is open for 6 minutes. That's very good. We've got another individual whose average page is open for 36 minutes. Okay, what can we do to assist Joe or Mary to allow them to close their pages more quickly? Okay, and then what we can do here, which I just created this is based off of an organization that I've worked with in order to increase their adoption and utilization of ShopLogic's to reduce their downtime. Okay, and we're using the analytics then to allow them to understand how they're trending over time to see if it's having an impact. So here we can see a massive increase in the number of pages that they're creating, which is creating reaction from the supporting team members to the operators on the shop floor, which is then trending their downtime over time, and they can clearly see that they're trending in the right direction. If they weren't, they would be getting this report every morning directly from the core analytics within ShopLogic's, allowing them to be alerted on an ongoing basis so that change can be made at the time rather than after the fact or 2 weeks later when we finally got the data available to us from the manually collected information or from other business intelligence tools that we have. We now have ShopLogic's creating these, going to everybody who requires this information on an ongoing basis. Okay, just works in the background and allows you to add the value to your business in the manner with which you're supposed to, rather than trying to find out the information that everybody tries to find today. Okay, I'll just touch on one more. dashboard. I'll go through it maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll leave it open for some Q&A if we have any. Okay, so this here is maybe an organization that I work with, which is a highly engaged and adopted organization. So we have many functionalities within ShopLogics from a core whiteboard perspective and data collection perspective on the shop floor, which allows you to categorize different machine states within ShopLogics, different downtime reasons within ShopLogics, different waste reasons. Okay. And then, as I said, all of that data is collated within the database that ShopLogics utilizes when creating the core analytics, which is what this webinar is for, to allow you to understand maybe some of the use cases. So here we have maybe set up as a machine state, which has been identified as an area for improvement opportunities. So here we have different plants within an organization and different machines. These are the total number of setups. So very quickly, I can see which organization has the most setups within my business. Okay. Here we have our average setup waste per machine. So depending on what type of production equipment you have on the shop floor, if you've got injection molding, then this could be the very same, but with just different terminology based on the different stages you have within your tools, steel to steel, your total tool setup time, or the different stages you have within a wash down for a clean room environment, or a production line where you have to change product line when you're doing different filling operations. So it really depends on what type of production process you have. To be able to customize this, it's simple. So that's the added benefit of the customization of this analytics, is it adapts to your production process and allows this level of flexibility and this level of the devil in the detail, regardless of what it is that you're producing as a business or what manufacturing assets you have within the organization. So here we have a breakdown of the different stages within setup and how much waste I'm producing within those stages. This is our average time within the different stages of the setup. And you could think that I could break this down by different stages of setup, or just I could break it down by how long am I running for, how long am I idle for, and how long am I in setup for. So it really depends on how you want to utilize this, but all of this level of capability in terms of what the core analytics can drive from a value add perspective is available for anybody within the ShopLogics family, let's call it. Then we have our total machine hours. And then we have the data table that supports this, just to allow you then to have a data table that you could quite easily export here. So if I click on this option here, it allows me to download, and I can create a CSV file, a PDF, or an Excel file very quickly and easily, to allow you then to take this out and manipulate it if you wish to do so. But more often than not, people will just use it directly within the analytics platform. Okay. I could go through many more dashboards. I hope that has been useful for some of you. I am more than happy to answer any questions. I'll check now if there's any Q&A. Okay, there's a question there from an individual about adding comments. So ShopLogics allows for the introduction of comments on the whiteboard. So at this point in time, the comments are not an available data point within the core analytics. The main reason for that at this point is the comments are a free field text, and that would just add a significant and complicated level of complexity to the data within the analytics portal. It is something that the ShopLogics product team are looking at and will continue to work on. But there are other formats that we have for exporting or dissecting the comments with a greater level of detail, that I will reach out to this individual who asked this question to go through with and share how you can get those comments in a more easy to use format than just kind of looking at them on the ShopLogics whiteboard as you may do today.